Hi, welcome to CKWT. This is the introductory segment. I'm Tania. If you're visiting me today, it's likely that this is your very first time attempting my classes and you want to go over the punches and kicks, which I deem very wise. So let's get started with the very basics, being fists. So how do we create a nice fist for a proper punch? We're going to take our 4 fingers, we're going to tuck them in nice and tight, wrapping your thumb right over like so. Every punch that you throw, you're going to be hitting with these 2 first knuckles. Just these 2 first knuckles. And we're going to keep our hands up to protect our face and body at all times. So if you're not throwing a punch, we're keeping them up. Moving on to the defensive stance, you're going to bring one leg forward, keeping the other one slightly back. So as if you're walking, but slightly broader, shoulder width apart. And you're going to keep your knees slightly bent at all times. In this case, we're going to start with the left leg forward. We're going to do it all over again with the right leg forward later, but let's start with the left leg forward. Keeping in mind that every punch and pretty much every kick that we throw, it comes from the hips. So what I mean by that is the energy behind each punch and each kick that we throw comes from here. If you throw your arms out like this while you're punching and you're not moving your hips, it's okay, but it's not super effective, not really strong. But if you're moving your hips at all times, keeping your feet nice and light, then your punches and your kicks will be a lot stronger, because this is where the source of energy comes from. So how we're going to do this, I'll talk you through it as we move forward, but I want you to remember to keep your knees bent, hands up, and I want your feet to be nice and light. So I would like for you to put the majority of your weight onto the balls of your feet, almost like you're raising your heels off the floor ever so slightly, ever so slightly. And we're going to face our bag right now. I'm going to teach you the first punch. So facing with your hips forward in front of the bag, hands up, we're going to do something called a jab, which looks like this. And you can see that I'm striking the bag with my left hand at this time. So because my left leg is forward, it's the left arm that's performing the jab. If my right leg were forward, I'd be performing a jab with the right hand. But since our left leg is forward at this time, let's continue with the jab. Make sure you're hitting your target with those 2 first knuckles that we had discussed earlier. Keeping your fingers down slightly. So you'll notice that my hips and my feet are always moving. Moving on to the next one is the cross punch. It's coming off of the back leg. It is crossing my body, hence the term cross punch. And once again, fingers are facing down, and I'm hitting the target with those 2 first knuckles only. Now let's put them together. Jab, cross. Jab, cross. Notice my feet are always moving because my hips, in this case, I want my right hip to come forward when I'm throwing a cross punch. See that? Why don't you try that with me? I'm bringing my right hip forward because I'm doing a little rotation off the back leg. So let's put them together again. Jab, cross, jab, cross, jab, cross. Try that a few times, and we'll move forward onto the hook punch. So once again, you're going to be in a nice defensive stance facing your bag, and you're going to get a little bit closer, so close enough where you can actually give your bag a hug. And what you're going to do is you're going to keep your hands up like this. I'm going to face you for this. You're going to lift your elbow up. You're going to do a little rotation, bringing that left hip forward, and you're going to hit your target. You're going to hit, and then you're going to bring your right hip forward and return. So notice my hips are always moving. This is a very good core exercise. It's also a great leg and glutes exercise, as well as the arms. Basically, it's a full body workout at all times. The elbow comes up and you hit, return. Elbow up, hit, and return. Pa, return. Pa, return. Let's face the bag. And try that nice and slow. Elbow up, hit, return, hit, return. Keep going. Nice and slow, be mindful of your feet, be mindful of your hips. And we're gonna speed that up. Ba, 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 ba. If you can't speed it up yet, take your time. Take this to your own pace. So that's the hook punch. Moving on to the uppercuts. We're gonna get a little bit closer to our bag. Bending our knees, kind of like you're straddling a large dog. And you're going to keep your left knee as close to the bag as you can without touching it. And then in my case, I'll have it about 4 inches away. You'll notice that my back is not hinging forward like this. So if you feel like you're doing this, I'd like for you to scooch in, almost kind of like you're sitting upright, okay? Getting close to your bag. Fingers are up, hence the term uppercut. And we're going to strike the bag. Remember, it's all about the hips, so I want to see your hips moving. And you can't move your hips if your feet are implanted into the floor. So I want you to make sure that your feet are nice and light and your hips are directing your punches. You're hitting with those 2 first knuckles only. Fingers are facing up. Once you've hit, return. Hit, return. Hit, return. Hit, return. Ba, 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 ba. And that's uppercut. Let's move on to the backhand. So the backhand looks like this. This is the one punch that you're not utilizing your 2 first knuckles. You're actually using the back of your hand. Some martial art methods are different, and they tell you to hit with the side of your fist, like so. That's totally cool. Whatever you feel more comfortable with. This is a great alternative, but I was taught and I feel more comfortable with hitting with the back of the hand. And once again, a little notation about my hips. They're not stationary, they're not just standing there. They're moving towards the target. Like so. Here we're gonna go on to something called a speed bag. So this isn't really a punch, but it's something that I use in my classes to fill in gaps or to do a transition. So it's very appropriate because it is something that is used in boxing for training. And it's little rotations just at the forehead level. Just like this, you're hitting mainly with the side of the fist over here. So you're not hitting with those 2 first knuckles, but you are making little rotations, and I want you to make sure that you're keeping it high. If you don't have a bag to hit, maybe your bag is not tall enough, maybe you're air punching, maybe you're using a bob, whatever the case is, feel free to do this with no target, just little rotations like this. Now we're gonna move on to the kicks. So we're gonna start off with the front kick. Hands up at all times. We're in a nice defensive stance. We're gonna hit the target with the left foot at this time. So my hips are facing the bag. I'm gonna lift my knee, extend, return, and down. You'll notice that my supporting leg is slightly bent, and I'm gonna keep it that way. So I'm going to lift my left knee, extend, return, and place it down in front of me. Let's try that one more time. Lift, extend, return, and down. I want you to be mindful of that when you're hitting the target, you'll be hitting with the ball of your foot. So the part of your foot when you're reaching up to reach that high thing on the shelf, that area is what hits the target. So I'm gonna face my bag and demonstrate. That's called the front kick. Why don't you give that a few goes and see how you like it. It's pretty fun. Moving forward, we're gonna do something called the side kick. This one here is a little tricky. The side kick and the roundhouse kick are a little tricky, but I'll talk you through it and you'll get it in no time. So you're facing your bag. We'll start off always facing the bag. We're gonna turn our full body pretty much away. So you'll notice that my toes went away from my bag, but my eyes and my hands stay in front. So you're gonna feel quite a rotation in the upper body, and that's good because you're tightening your obliques while you throw these side kicks. So you're gonna keep your hands up. You're gonna bring your left knee forward in front of you. So if you were in natural position, that knee's coming in front, but we're turning towards our bag. We're going to extend, return, and down. My supporting leg is always bent. It helps with balance, and it's just better technique. So we're going to bring that knee up, extend, return, and down. I would like for your knees, I'd like for your toes to be pointing down. You'll be hitting the target with your heel. Return and down. If you feel, or if you see that your toes are pointing up when you're throwing a side kick, that means that you're not turned enough. So I'd like for you to have your hips turn away from your bag. That way you're hitting with your heel and your toes are pointing down. If you wish to hit with the blade of your foot, that's the outer part of your foot, like so, that's totally acceptable as well. It's just a different martial arts method. I like the heel. It's a little bit more, it's a little narrower, so it's a little sharper on impact and more painful for your opponent. Let's move on to the roundhouse kick. So once again, facing our bag, we're gonna turn side. So your shoulder is aligned with the bag. So you're on, instead of facing it, you're turned at like 90 degrees, let's just say. The left foot is gonna be out in front of you, and you're gonna point your toes. The supporting leg is gonna be out on a 45-degree angle. And again, always keep your hands up to protect your face and body. We're gonna bring our our heel to our butt, like so. And let's just do that a couple of times. We're gonna keep our knee exactly where it is. I don't want to see your knee come forward. That's improper technique. You're gonna keep your thigh exactly where it is. And if you need to just hold on to it just for the first few seconds so you get a good understanding of what this feels like, you're just bringing your heel to your butt, heel to your butt, heel to your butt without allowing that knee to pop forward. Heel to your butt, okay? You're gonna possibly feel a cramp in your hamstring. That's because you're exercising your hamstring. Isn't this amazing? So much exercise involved in all of these throws, like punches and kicks. So keeping our hands up, let's try that again. Heel to butt. Now we're gonna lift the leg, extend, return, and down. Let's try that again. Heel to butt, lift, extend, return, and down. You're hitting the side of the bag, and you're gonna hit the target specifically with this little area right over here. So it's just above the shoelaces, but not quite in the shin area. It's that bony area of your ankle. So it's very important that you're pointing your toes. You don't wanna accidentally hit the bag like so with your toes, because you really run the risk of injury. So it's super important that you hit the target with this bony area. And you can keep it low if you wish. It certainly doesn't have to be high. It doesn't have to be heavy and hard. But I like to throw high. I like to kick high because it helps with my balance, where my center of gravity is. So don't feel like you have to do it this high. It's just what works better for me. And over time, as you strengthen, as you gain flexibility, you'll find that you'll be making adjustments throughout as well. And it's progressive, it's great. You'll be building strength and endurance, muscularly and cardiovascularly. So that is the roundhouse kick. I think we're all done with this side, so come join me with the right leg forward. Right leg forward in a nice defensive stance. So if you're a lefty, you'll likely prefer this stance better. I think righties prefer the right leg behind. But now we're going to just switch it up. So right leg forward. And a nice defensive stance means like a walking stance, but just a little bit broader, hands up, protect your face and your body. Remember, a nice fist is very important. Face your bag, hips are facing the bag, and you're gonna throw a nice light jab. Something that I wanted to mention is that it's really important that when you do throw your kicks and your punches, that you're not sticking. That means staying here and pushing. First of all, it's a terrible technique because you run the risk of getting grabbed and flipped. So you want to pretend that this is a really hot stove and you can barely touch it. Just touch it. Bah, bah. We're doing speed in my class. Well, you know what I mean. We're being fast in my class. We're not being strong and heavy because it's a cardio fitness class. If you hit too hard, too soon, you're gonna get burnt out really, really fast. So I really encourage you to think light versus heavy, okay? With that being said, let's move on. So this is the jab, and remember, your feet are nice and light. Your hips are always moving. The source of energy behind the punch is always from the hips. Try that a couple of times because now we're gonna do the cross punch. So obviously now the cross punch is coming off of the back leg, but in this case it's the left arm, left leg. And notice my hip is coming forward. Otherwise it looks like this. And that's poor technique, not a whole lot of strength involved. So bring that left hip forward. Bah, bah, bah. Now let's combine the two with a jab cross. Jab cross, fingers down, hitting with those two first knuckles that we talked about. And that's jab cross. Let's move on to hook punches. So let's get a little bit closer to a bag. Can you give your bag a hug? All right, we're gonna face our bag and we're gonna lift. Actually, once again, I'm gonna face you because this is a tricky punch. I really want you to see step by step how it works. So you're going to bring right elbow up, pivot, return. Left elbow up, pivot, return. I don't want to see this. Okay, we're no monkeys in the zoo. We're gonna keep our hands up, lift, pivot, return, lift, pivot, return. It's all about the hips. Let's face our bag. And we're gonna try it nice and slow. Hook, return, hook, return, hook, return, hook, return. Try that slow for a couple of times. Be mindful of your feet, be mindful of your hips, be mindful of your arms, that they return after you strike. And now we're going to speed that up. Yes, a little tricky, but before you know it, it'll become second nature, so don't sweat it. I know it's a tough one, especially after you strike to return. Otherwise, you look like a monkey, right? We don't want that. So let's move on to the uppercut. So once again, let's straddle our large dog and hips rotate facing the bag. Get nice and close, about 4 inches away. Make sure you're not hinging forward. If you are, come closer. And we're going to have our fingers up, uppercut. And we're gonna hit nice and low to the abdomen and the kidneys of the opponent. And look, my legs are moving. My hips are moving. Mainly the back leg. The back leg is what provides all the strength with every punch. That's uppercut, and it's a lot of fun. All right, now we're moving on to the backhand. So, backhand looks like this. You are about 90 degrees from your bag, hands up, and it's all about the back hip. So make sure that left hip at this time rotates forward and return. Hit the back of your hand, like so, making sure that hip is always, always moving. That's the backhand. Let's do the speed bag. Just a little refresher. We're not really in a defensive stance, but I figure we do everything equally on both sides of the body in my class. So that's speed bag. Let's move on to the kicks. So facing your bag. I don't think I need to face you to demonstrate at this point because I think you know it. You're gonna face your bag, hands up. You're gonna bring your right knee forward, extend, return, and down. Lift, extend, return, and down, hitting with the ball of your feet. Please watch your toes. I don't want you walking out of here with injuries. So extend, return, and down. Nice and quick. Don't push your bag, just tap your bag, especially if it's not grounded. Mine is not grounded. So my kicks and my punches are going to be nice and light, but that benefits us for my classes. And place it in front. Moving on to the side kick. So I'm going to face my bag. I'm going to do a nice full rotation so my toes go on a 45-degree angle away. As I look at my bag, I'm going to bring my right knee in, extend, return, and down. Lift, extend, return, and down. My toes are pointing down. I'm hitting with my heel. Let's do that quickly a couple of times. Ba, 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 and release. Okay, so let's move on to the roundhouse kick. So facing my bag, we always start this way, and we're going to turn at a 90-degree angle. So my shoulder is pretty aligned with the bag. Hands up, and keep them in front. My supporting leg is slightly bent, toes are a little out, away from the bag, and my right leg, my right toes are pointed. And I'm going to bring my heel to my butt. Ready? And heel to butt, heel to butt. So if you need a little extra reminder, try to keep your hand for now at your thigh to prevent your knee from popping forward. So let's keep that thigh exactly where it is as you bring your heel to your butt. We'll try that a couple of times. Heel to butt, heel to butt. And let's bring those hands up and give it a go. Heel to butt, lift, extend, return, and down. Hitting with that bony part of your ankle, not the shin, because you will bruise, you will not like it. Heel to butt, lift, extend, return, and down. Heel, lift, extend, return, and down. And let's speed that up a little bit. Ba, ba, ba. And release. See you at class.